hear more about this exciting new program that we've developed called Philly SHRM Lift Lab. Hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions this morning. I have with me my colleague, Dan Gallagher, who is the architect of the content of the program, and together we'll be able to answer your questions. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what Lift Lab really is. You've probably seen the flyer by now. You know that this is a program unlike any of the others that are in this area, where we really help leaders, HR leaders specifically, to develop their leadership skills and hone them so that they become more effective leaders in their organizations. The program lasts for 5 months, and we've developed the program so that it is a part of it is learning content, a part of it is application, a part of it is networking. It's all of that. What am I missing, Dan?
Well, I think the hybrid experience and the cohort experience are part of the design that we get excited about as well, and that'll come to life as we unpack a few of the more of the details. But when you look at a general overview, those hit the high points, right? I think the important piece is that this is a balance between growing your HR functional skills, but also being attentive to the business impact, right, that folks have with standing up a practice. And so there's a real focus on practical application and best practices. And we've got a variety of different resources that we'll bring in through the learning experience, knowing that different participants from different organizations are going to have different contexts. So it's really about creating a community of learning of what's working, differentiating what might work at a bigger versus a smaller organization. And gosh, we've heard the phrase crawl, walk, run so many times in our lives. It's just helping us understand, how we can progress in our HR practices and the impact they have on the employee experience and the customer experience.
Absolutely. And when you think about who the right person is for this program, it's someone who is poised for a leadership, someone who has been like perhaps generalist work, and now they really want to elevate their contributions. It would be ideally someone who has people reporting to them, but not necessarily by title, but by the experience that you've had, kind of really has you poised to take on a bigger leadership role. We've heard people say all the time that, HR wants a seat at the table. Well, this program helps you to identify what that really means and how you can solidify your seat at the table. Because it isn't just about what you know about HR. It's, as Dan said, it's about the impact that you have on the business. And sometimes we may lose sight of that.
Totally agree. And it's hard to put, especially across a super mega chapter like Philadelphia SHRM, right? With Philly SHRM, we're trying to not limit this by title, right? And so it's more about the moment in time that people are at. And Jackie, explained it perfectly, right? It's about people that are trying to scale their influence and impact across the organization. And their background could be, purely in HR, or it could be someone, for example, there's tons of folks that are moving from marketing into TA. But it's really about understanding the whole people ecosystem and the whole HR ecosystem across the different modules. And so we're going to have examples of work across those disciplines, whether it be comp and benefits, whether it be around DEI, whether it be around performance management, right, org design, et cetera. There's different pieces to focus on. But there is an expectation that people have a baseline understanding of these things, right? So that it's core to what they've been exposed to. This is the first time that they're seeing this. I think another piece that's important to emphasize, Jackie, is the manager involvement, right? Yes, the individual is participating in the program, but for an investment like this and the pull through to happen, the manager has to be all in on supporting the development and supporting the application of the learning. And so to that point, you'll see us, and once folks register, you'll see us doing a front-end survey to understand learner needs. Look, if we were all inside the same organization, we would do this in the terms of a needs assessment. And so we've done the needs assessment to build the high-level architecture, but it's really important that we understand person by person in this cohort what you're looking to gain so that we can cater to your individual needs as best we can.
Yeah. And when you think about how that is going to show up, we have these modules where we deliver content. And then we have these coaching circles, which really helps you to build out that content. What does it mean for you and your organization? How would it show up? And then the expectation is that you would go back home and apply this, try it out, see how it works. You come back again, and now you have this network of colleagues who are all going through the same experience that you can talk about them with, and you can offer ideas. And so it also helps to build a long-term relationship with these folks that you're going through the cohort with.
Totally. And that's where this process on the bottom of the learner experience comes from, right? We're going to start with framing and connecting it to the content that we were in before. We all work within an ecosystem. And so the positioning, the context is super important. We'll then focus on the new learning, the application to Jackie's point. And then we do the coaching circles, which are separate scheduled experiences. And then we have the activation, right? The key element of this is that the manager and the participant of the cohort are really focused on how do I apply this and how do I show up in a way that brings different value than if I hadn't experienced this development program.
So we're really excited about it. And I know that you may have heard more about it if you were at the symposium or if you've seen some of the information that we've been sending out. But Dan, can you just really walk us through the self-aware leader concept and how this is played out here?
Totally, yeah. So the idea behind the self-aware leader is simply slowing yourself down to speed yourself up. And for those of us that are in this kind of put your head down and crank the work, right? It's lifting your head up and looking with your peripheral vision, right? To understand how you can add different or more value. And so the triangle in the center is really around driving reinvention, whether it's reinventing yourself or how you work with others or how you work with the business. And then the 4 pillars are from the research validated as the drivers of reinvention. So how do you show up with more self-awareness? Well, you are more attentive to your support system and network, and those are people that help lift you up and inform you. You're more attentive and focused around critical and systems thinking. And the critical system thinking is, I think this wall needs another coat of paint, and that's going to help it make it look better. But the systems thinking is when I paint this wall, I actually notice that this wall doesn't look as nice anymore. The savvy perspective of political landscape is recognizing that in all work there is power, right? But all the politics comes through people, not through the work. And then the last one is courageous drive for magis. Magis is a Latin term more for the good of others. And so how do you come to market with the value that you create? And how is it seen about setting up the team for success rather than you or your function? And so bringing it back to like why Lift Lab, leaders as they progress need to balance their focus on vertical excellence and horizontal excellence. Vertical excellence is functionally what you're responsible for, right? Horizontal excellence is that every time you push a lever, it pulls a lever in someone else's shop. And so how do you shape the whole organization? How do you influence the whole organization? And so to do that, we're going to have deeper learning cycles where we can learn firsthand on what people have done with success and candidly what people have done and it's backfired. Just that type of community of learning, both while we're live for the schedule time, but also nuggets that we can share through interviews with different HR and finance and operational leaders, both across for-profit, nonprofit industries to help people gain a stronger perspective, right? Benchmarking, best practices. I was just reading some recent reports that were brought up on LinkedIn, coming out of things like the McKinsey report on the new HR organization that came out, I think last year, and then Dave Aldrich responded to that. So there's so many different pieces that are out there, and it's helping to expose this cohort to grander, bigger thinking around how they can think about the work beyond their to-do list. And that's the self-awareness, right? We're busy, we're challenged, but how do you step back and think about doing the work differently so that you know your why and what you're chasing and how it influences the full org.
And, the second bullet on this slide really to me is one of the most important ones. It's not about implementing a thing. It's about adopting a way of working. And that's what really, it requires some different kind of resourcing in order to be able to make that switch. So, Dan, can we just run through real quickly what the modules are?
Yeah, and one quick point before we jump there, Jackie. So like what's cool is that like Jackie's drawn to number 2 on Why Left Lab. I'm drawn to number 1. I'm sorry, number 4. I love the I'm talking to so many different people around how from a talent and the competition for talent right now is so sophisticated that more and more HR leaders are being asked to play offense. Right. And that means leaning into what they know needs to happen and even introducing to business partners what they need to have happen rather than waiting for the ask. All right. So this is where you want to go next, Jackie?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right. So 5 core modules here. You can see that module 2, inclusion, engagement, and change, and module 5 are both in person for 3 hours. Right. They'll be scheduled in person in Philadelphia, whereas the other 3 are virtual. And you can see that we have very specific desired outcomes for each. So the framing starts with the self-aware leader and getting into how does this mindset and the model influence how you show up as an HR leader. And then it weaves into the 4 modules. So you can talk about inclusion, engagement, and change, right? But what does self-awareness look like within that functional work, right? So when you create safety, when you create inclusivity, when you create equity in practices, where are the moments of self-awareness? And are you seeing them before they happen? Can you anticipate them? Are you feeling them while they happen? Or are you not seeing them until after they happen? Part of this exercise is to create more visibility of what you might be able to anticipate so that you can be in an offensive space. So we'll talk about the inclusion, equity, and change, all driving engagement and that discretionary effort focus. We have a great opportunity around connecting people data and business data by actually getting into some data sets and understanding, how do we look or correlate, for example, employee opinion data or employee turnover data, or seeing more and more organizations look at like what part of the band are they hiring at and how's that influencing ramp up time to productivity, right? Those types of things we're going to really focus on how organizations look to triangulate data and make big bets because of that.
So, okay, I'm sorry.
Jump in.
Yeah, I was just going to say that each one of these modules is being taught by an expert in that area, if you will. And it's not just HR experts, it's other business leaders, because it's important for us to understand the perspective of others if we're really trying to influence them. We've got some really amazing faculty that are lining up for this program. You can see some of the, I'm sure you know some of the people on this list, and our coaches have also been identified. These are the folks that you'll be working with individually for each one of the modules. So I'm super excited about the quality of the people that are going to be in this program.
These are good people, but they're also really smart and effective at what they do. And we've got some opportunities to create tag team exercises where we bring together different ways of thinking about the work. And so really excited about and very, very much appreciate these folks for leaning into this development experience and making it a win for the cohort. But this list will grow. And again, there will be things that we can do with 1 or 2 of these folks where we might send you a 20-minute recorded webinar in advance as pre-work for a session. And then there's other instances where they will attend the live session, the live learning module. And then there's other instances where they'll be part and facilitating your coaching circle. The coaching circles, going back to the module, the coaches are dedicated by module, right? So if we have multiple, which we will, multiple multiple coaching circles within the cohort, the same coach will work across module 1. The same coach will then work across module 2. And so you'll get to experience 5 different coaches as part of the journey. So you really get some good exposure And that's going to help you with benchmarking. Here's how we do it here. Here's where I've seen it at other places. And so you can tap into the community of learning as well.
Right. So that's a little bit more about Lift Lab and how we've laid the program out. But I would love to hear if you have other questions that we haven't already answered.
Yeah, that's great. So if we can stop the recording and then we'll go into any questions, fair game, and we'll get going from there.